Hi, my name is Sakina Akery, and I'm going to be speaking on child marriage. I believe that child marriage should be banned everywhere within the world, but especially in the United States. Did you know that 48 out of 50 states within the United States allows child marriage? A lot of these states, of course, you have to have an exemption, which contains or is made up of basically a parent's consent. So then basically giving consent for the child to be married. Another exemption is a judge can approve it. Another exemption is the child could be whether pregnant or just had a baby. So those are three exemptions that will allow a child to be married within the United States. Throughout the world, Africa has the highest number of child marriages. Nigeria leading with 76% throughout the whole world. So the numbers that they give us with child marriage basically are numbers given to us that were reported. So a lot of child marriages were not reported. So we really don't technically have an exact number, but from the ones reported, there is a lot, especially within the continent of Africa. And again, like I said, the highest rates of child marriages are within the African region and also South Asia. Another thing that is interesting with child marriage is that a lot of the child marriages happen within rural areas. So a lot of child marriages, a lot of those kids come from backgrounds of poverty. They come from backgrounds of poverty. They come from no money, poor, not having a lot of food. A lot of that happens within Africa. So a lot of times, whether it be the parent giving away their child and saying, "Hey, you can marry my daughter as long as you provide food, money, and everything." And a lot of times they require for them to send it back to them in order to marry their child. So basically, they are wedding off their children and allowing these grown men, grown women to wed their children, and they're making money off of them. In some cases, parents do it to make sure their kids have a good life, which is not okay still. But I guess if I were to sympathize a little bit, I guess that would be a reason to, but I still think it's wrong. They are taking away that child's basic human right, and it's not right. According to globalcitizens.org, even through the U.S. State Department and the United Nations, even though the United Nations and the U.S. State Department consider child marriage and forced marriage, marriages in which people above the age of 18 are married against their will, to be human rights abuses. They continue today. A quote from Reese, also within the globalcitizens.org. A quote from Reese says, "It's not about whether a girl's mature enough to make a decision like that, because we all know some very mature 17-year-olds and very immature 27-year-olds. So this is not about maturity. But he says child marriage has to go because children don't have rights of adulthood until they turn 18. And that makes it very dangerous for a child to be married because the child simply cannot get out of that marriage. And he says that because basically a child can't get, if the child's under 18 years old, they can't get out of the marriage. They can't request to be divorced because they're not 18 yet. So why is it that we're allowing children under 18 to get married, but you're not allowing them to get out of the marriage? So it doesn't make any sense. So if you can't allow them to be divorced and get divorced, if they're not able to make that decision and you think they're too young to make that decision, then they're too young to make the decision about getting married. And like I said before, victims of child marriages are often those coming from poor families with promises of financial stability or a better life. A lot of child brides tend to have low levels of education. Child brides end up also having many children to care for while they're still young. So there's no room for education. There's no room for improvement. There's no room for them having the basic childhood, which is going to school, and enjoying their childhood, going to school, having friends and stuff, choosing colleges and stuff like that, not deciding what their children are going to eat, how to make their husband happy. They're only kids. Also, child brides are less likely to receive medical care during pregnancy than women who were married as adults. Some of the reasons for that is because, for one, is frowned upon, and a lot of times this are frowned. Well, of course, it's frowned upon because child marriage is wrong, but a lot of the times it's because the husband who's supposed to love and care for that child that they decide to marry is not taking care of them, and so that's another reason why. My name is Sakina Akery again, and I believe that child marriages should not happen. A child who isn't even, a lot of times hasn't even hit puberty yet, married off to a grown man or married off to a grown woman to reproduce at such a young age and everything like that. And all it takes is for their parent to sign off on it, a judge to sign off on it, or for them to be pregnant or something like that. Even if the child's pregnant, I still don't believe or think that it's okay for them to be married at a young age. So many things happen. So much stuff can happen to that child. So many things can happen to any children that they have in the future. To me, it's borderline predatory, as well as it's to me it's sexual abuse, especially if you're having sex with a child. I understand they're married, but it's still wrong. They're young, and then if they weren't married and they were to have sex with an 18, 19, 20-year-old, that's statutory rape. There's people on the registry for statutory rape. So you mean tell me that some countries will still allow you or some countries and some states in the United States will allow you to marry a child? I think it's wrong. So that was my speech on child marriages. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.